Welcome to Carl T. Widén Elementary. We are the proud home of Widén Wildcats. Yes. I love it. So, bienvenidos a todos, toda la comunidad, la familia, los maestros. Nos da mucho gusto que están aquí compartiendo este tiempo con nosotros. So I do just want to start off by saying it means a lot just to see everyone turn out to come out for our meetings and just being part of the conversation. And also want to a heartfelt thank you to the Mr. Superintendent Matthias and his team, just kind of making sure they create a space for us to kind of have a space for us to voice how we feel and what we're thinking and how we can navigate this together. So muchas gracias al equipo de Superintendent Matthias. Aquí estamos para trabajar juntos, para que nos siga apoyando todos los niños de aquí de Austin ISD. So turn it over.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ali Ghilarducci. I'm the Senior Executive Director of Communications and Community Engagement. Before we get started in the content, we just want to talk about what you can expect today. So we just did our welcome. We are going to briefly go over some meeting norms and just the purpose of the meeting. Then we are going to introduce our panel, the folks that we have here that can help respond to questions. Then we will provide you with an overview of what are the proposed changes that are currently in the draft plan, so that we all are on the same page about what's currently being proposed. And then and that's so that we can hear from y'all, understand what's working, what your concerns are, and that's so that we could potentially inform any potential changes to the draft. Then y'all submitted questions via the comment card. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted those questions. You have QR codes on your table. That card is actually open until tonight. So if you think of anything after this meeting you want to submit, get it in today. But we pulled questions from there, and we're going to answer some of those questions that came up frequently in your comments. And then the last 45 minutes or so is going to be just Q&A and time for us to hear any questions we maybe haven't answered from the comment cards. And then we'll just talk about next steps. So I just want to briefly go over meeting norms. We're here because we want to build the future together. We want to acknowledge the challenges that our district is currently facing, while focusing on ideas and solutions that will make our district stronger, more equitable, and sustainable for years to come. We want to honor time, so when we get to the Q&A, we're going to ask that people attempt to limit your comments to about a minute, just because we have a lot of folks here and we want to make sure there's space for everyone. We want to honor the process, so that means following along with the agenda, staying on course, honoring intent and impact. So we know that we may disagree on things, but I think that we can all hopefully agree that one thing that we all have in common is our goal to have strong, equitable schools to serve our students. We want to honor space and voice, and what we mean by that is if you do get called on to speak, we're going to make sure that before we get to you a second time, that everyone else who hasn't spoken has an opportunity. We want to stay solution-oriented as much as possible, so focusing on ideas, solutions, and understanding. And then we're here to embrace transparency and empathy. You have our commitment that we're going to tell you what we know, what we believe is possible, what constraints we might be facing, and we recognize these are really hard conversations, and that we are asking families to experience a fair amount of change, and we understand that, and we're here to understand how we can move forward and make that an easier transition if that is what we end up pursuing. The norms are here in Spanish for y'all. And then just to reiterate the meeting purpose, so like we said, we want to make sure we respond. We know that we got some questions that came up over and over again in the comment cards, so we're going to go ahead and come out and answer those right away for y'all. Then we also, like I said, want to gain a shared understanding of what the proposed changes are and some of the rationale or the why. Why, we saw a lot of questions. Well, why this instead of that, right? And so we're going to explain our thought process behind all of those proposals. But what we really want to know is we want to gain insights from you that are going to help us inform potential changes to the draft plan, because we released a draft, and this Friday we are going to be releasing a revised version of that draft. And through conversations that we've had with communities, through the comment cards, we have read every single one of those. every single idea. If we hadn't already explored it, we made sure that we looked and explored it. And you will see this Friday that many adjustments will be made from that initial plan. It may not be every adjustment you were hoping for, but we are making adjustments, and it is directly based on the feedback we hear from y'all. So that's a big part of why we're here today. Because ultimately we want to get a final draft presented to our board on November 20th, and we want to make sure it captures the feedback that you've shared with us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to our superintendent to talk a little bit about the vision for this process, and then we'll dive into kind of what's proposed and the questions. Sorry.
Thank you, Allie. So first off, I just want to say thank you to all of our families and staff for being here this afternoon. It's not lost on me. This is a commitment of time. We very much appreciate you engaging. As Allie said, this is a draft plan. Your feedback, what you share with us will help us move forward. And so I just wanted to say thank you, thank you. I also want to acknowledge that this is a very disruptive, painful process. And I want you all to know that I just apologize that we're having to go through this. It's never something I thought I would have to be a part of. But given where we are as a school district, we have to do something. The way that we have been operating, the way that we have been supporting our students cannot continue on if we're going to evolve as a school district. Our goal as a school district is to ensure that every student gets what they need to be successful. Period. Right? And what we know is that in Austin ISD, for decades, black and brown students who have been historically underserved, have not gotten what they need to be successful. And we know that. Look at where our schools are. Look at how the resources have been deployed for decades. And I would argue that if we keep doing those things, our students who look like me, who look like many of you in this room, are not going to get what they need from us. Austin ISD, the organization that I lead, has to change. So when we talk about what that change looks like, we talk about having strong neighborhood schools. A neighborhood. Right? We want our families not to feel like they have to go across town to get to a strong neighborhood school, but some families feel as though they need to do that. We want students that not only do well on a test, but love learning, love reading. Like, that's what we want. And the reality of it all is that we do have strong schools and we do have strong neighborhood schools, but they're not everywhere. And so we as a school district have to do something to evolve. And we have to do it at a time when there is immense pressure everywhere. From the state and not fully funding public education, from the federal government and the challenges that it's pushed and placed on our immigrant families, right, to the ever-changing accountability system that's changed multiple times in the last 3 years. Like, what we do moving forward has to be mindful of all of this. And so this plan, there's a lot in it, and it covers the entire district. But there are several things in it that we hope to accomplish. One, we wanted to make sure that every student in Austin ISD was in an aligned feeder pattern. Well, what does that mean? It means if you're in an elementary school, you go to no more than 1 or 2 middle schools. And if you're in a middle school, you go to no more than 1 or 2 high schools. You keep community together. Programming, alignment improves. We have schools that have feeder patterns like that. They're not in East Austin. In East Austin, we have schools that have 4 and 5 high schools that they go to. You cannot keep community together if you continue to have those splits. This plan aims to clean up and align those feeder patterns. 2, we have budget challenges, y'all. We just do. We invest in our educators, we put money where our teachers are and in our classrooms, but the cost of education is rising every single year. And no one's helping us out. We've gotten some funding from the state, but it didn't really move the needle. So we have to figure out how do we find resources and how we distribute them to ensure that they're going to our students who need them the most. So we got to become more efficient. 3, we have to address these transfer policies that have been in place for decades. They're moving students all throughout Austin and are giving families the ability to navigate different ways and moving students from their communities to other parts of Austin. Now, there's reasons why they occurred in the past, but we really have to look at them as we move forward. So that's part of this plan as well. 4, certain programs have evolved over the last many years. In Austin ISD, we believe in dual language. There are school districts all across Central Texas that are moving away from dual language, not us. We're leaning into it. But there are some programs who, just because of how the city has grown, don't have the student population in the walls of that school, of those schools, that it was originally intended for. So our emergent bilingual students. So if we're going to support these programs, we have to create access and move those programs to where our students live. That's part of the plan. And then lastly, this plan has to be responsive to the accountability pressures in the state of Texas that we are facing. It's not lost on me that Widén in 2022 had an accountability rating that was academically successful. Y'all know that? The same kids, the same teachers the following year had an unacceptable rating. That just shows you how much that test changed in 1 year. So we have to adjust ourselves because the state's not changing. So this plan has to be responsive to it. And if we are not responsive to it, then the state will take ever-increasing interventions and introduce risks that could at some point take away local control. It's happening right now in the state of Texas in the last week with a school district that looks very similar to Austin ISD. So we have to do all of this together. This plan is a draft plan. We're refining it, we're improving it, but I want you to know that each of these things is woven in together, and every time you make a change in one school or one program, it impacts another. And so we'll go through the impacts for Widén. We're really hopeful that you have share with us y'all's concerns, thoughts, ways that we can improve. It's not a perfect plan. No plan is, given how complex that it is. But I wanted to share with you kind of why this plan looks the way that it does. Go to the next slide. So the plan. So in this plan for Widén Elementary School, acknowledging a couple things. The first is that we have lots of seats in this area, empty seats. And there's over 20,000 in Austin ISD. And so this plan attempts to remove some of them by going through boundary changes and consolidations. And so Widén, also acknowledging that we have to respond to a turnaround plan, arrives at this draft scenario. Widén Elementary School will move into Rodriguez Elementary School and into Houston Elementary School. The percent of students will be about 70% to Rodriguez, 30% to Houston. This is based on geography and kind of where our students live and where our students live in proximity to those schools. So the plan, and you see the little, kind of the size, how it's a little bit bigger. Rodriguez Elementary School would be the school that receives the turnaround plan that's required by the state of Texas for Widén. And so as we work with that campus, if this plan moves forward, then Rodriguez would be the school that is responsible for breaking that turnaround plan, and the turnaround, breaking the accountability chain, and that would be the obligation between the entire community. And then Houston Elementary School is going through a modernization. I certainly want to acknowledge that they don't have the same historical ratings There's fluctuation. We know they're a D prior to that, but they're not a 3 unacceptable rating. They're a 2, and based on what we're seeing there with the investments, we do believe that they're moving in the right direction, and they'll be able to break their accountability chain as well. So you can see this is being kind of responsive to the number of seats we have in the area, as well as addressing the turnaround plan required by the state of Texas. So I'll go ahead and cover this. So what does this mean for your student next year? Well, if you live in the current elementary school boundary, you would attend either Rodriguez or Houston. We have a tool on our website where you can go and add your address, and it'll tell you precisely which school you will go to. If you are a transfer student into Widén, we are going to be sharing with our board and with our community that you will be able to move with your cohort as you choose. Meaning that if you transfer in and your community is going to Rodriguez, then we would approve that transfer. If you prefer to choose Houston, then we would approve that as well. That is a superintendent level decision. I want to make sure that our community stays together as best we can, and that's one way that we can help do that. You want to speak to this, Christine? Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Christine Steenport. I'm the operations officer for Austin ISD. So I just kind of want to walk through the boundary maps and talk a little bit about that. So this boundary map is the existing Widén boundary. So this boundary is the existing Widén boundary. So if you live in here, you're assigned to Widén. And so since this school is proposed for a closure, this is what you see as the boundary. And so this little piece, so what this is called a little bit of feathering. You may or may not have heard that term. When we redraw boundaries to balance our enrollment through all of our schools and make sure that we're at a healthy range of utilization for how big that school is versus how many kids live in that area, I'll kind of walk you through why some of these little squares are a little bit different. So this is why I know Superintendent Segura kind of walked us through how most of the students will go to Widén based off where they live, Rodriguez, based off where they live and where that boundary is redrawn. So if this boundary is no more, this part would go to Rodriguez, and then this part would be rezoned to Houston. So if you want to go through the other maps. And this just kind of shows Houston's boundary and the changes there for Perez. So there's a bit of that feathering, that domino effect of shifting and moving. And then this is that piece that you saw on the previous map. So just wanted to point that out. And then this is Rodriguez's as well. So this piece here would go to Rodriguez. And so that just kind of showcases that. So I just wanted to walk through kind of those 3 boundary changes and the shifts. And if there's any questions, happy to walk through it anymore.
And just the last piece that we wanted to talk about, do you want me to talk about the turnaround plan? Sure. So we just want to make sure that everyone's clear on the turnaround plan. So as you know, Widén requires a turnaround plan. TEA wants to see, to the best ability possible, if we have to reassign students, that we do what we can to get the majority of students into a school that is higher rated. So Rodriguez is one of those schools that is higher rated, which is why we have assigned the majority of students to that school. As Superintendent Segura said, when there is a turnaround plan, that plan, and a school closes, that plan follows the student. So Rodriguez would inherit the Widén turnaround plan, and that would become that combined schools turnaround plan. So we're drafting those plans now. If they are approved, that work would start together for the 2 school communities to work together to refine that plan, because that joined school community will have to adopt and implement that plan. The principal for the schools, when we're consolidating schools, those are going to be decisions that are made administratively by our superintendent, and we recognize that there's a lot of uncertainty in this process. So one of the things that we're going to try to provide some certainty on is, once we have a vote in November and we know what changes have been approved, we will be appointing principals for any of these consolidated schools in December. And that allows that principal then to begin to start figuring out what the staffing will be. So we know we get a lot of questions, for example, about maybe you have certain services your child receives and you want to know, are they going to have the same teacher, or are they going to receive those services? We want to get that principal in place and figured out so that they can start figuring out which staff. And one thing that we haven't talked about yet, but is We have a staffing guidebook that we've created. It's also on our consolidation page in the resources, and it outlines when we have school communities coming together, we want to make sure that wherever our kids end up, that they have familiar faces. So we want to make sure that students at Rodriguez still have teachers and staff that they recognize, but we also want to make sure that Widén students that would be going to Rodriguez would also have faces that they would recognize. So our goal is going to be to look at what percent of the students at this combined school come from Widén, what percent are at Rodriguez or Houston, and then trying to make the staffing more or less meet that. So if it's, say it's 50-50, then about half the staff we would want to try to be at one school and about half the staff would be from the other, so that everyone has those familiar faces. It won't be perfect, of course, but that's going to be our goal. And then if there are any current staff that don't find themselves landing either in Rodriguez or Houston, at that point we are going to hold career fairs and placement events so that we can identify other places in Austin ISD where they can continue to serve, because our goal is to find a home for everyone that we can, rather than trying, in a typical year we would be trying to hire staff starting in early spring to staff for the next school year. This year we don't need to look outside our district, right, because we're going to have staff that's freed up and we want to make sure we find homes for them. And then the last piece is any school that has a turnaround plan, so your school would be one, whether it's both at the one that goes over with students to Rodriguez or the one at Houston, those campuses are going to receive a significant investment of extra resources to support that turnaround plan. So this whole process does the whole point of us doing this process, one of the big goals is to free up dollars to put them where they're needed most, right? And so we know our schools that have those turnaround plans need those extra resources, so they can then hire positions like extra counselors to support the transition, extra content interventionists who can support students who maybe need a little extra curriculum help, or instructional coaches to support our teachers. So those schools will get extra resources and they can kind of decide how they need to spend those resources based on the goals they set in their turnaround plan. And so with that, we are going to go ahead and start with the pre-submitted questions that we had in the comment cards. And if you have any follow-up questions while we're going through it, we're happy to also address those. So I'm going to start with the first one, and this one came from multiple commenters. Could you explain the turnaround plan requirements from the Texas Education Agency? Why are students from Widén being reassigned to another school that requires a turnaround plan? So we've kind of touched on that.
Yeah, so the state of Texas requires turnaround plans whenever you have two unacceptable ratings, or they call them unacceptable counts. And what made this last year very challenging is that we had 2023 accountability, 2024 accountability, and 2025 accountability all come out within 5 months. Do you remember? Because there were lawsuits that took place. And so what the agency says is, if you are drafting an accountability plan, a turnaround plan, you have 6 strategies that you can use. And typically you're drafting those on your second UA, or unacceptable accountability rating count. And so what happened is you have 6 that you can evaluate. Now, if you get your third unacceptable count, which we have here at Widén, there are certain ones that are available but won't be accepted. An example of this would be like a restart or a new school. If you're in a year 2, you could restart, have a new school, but the second year would give you 1 whole year to plan, and then year 3 you would implement that plan, in year 4 you would break the chain, and in year 5 you would get out. Because all of it came together in a relatively short period of time, we had to draft and build turnaround plans that we knew would be accepted, and ones that we felt met the time that we have to address the rating. So once we're in year 3, right? So we're starting we have to get through year 3 and year 4. If you get into year 5, if you start the 5th year and the students take the STAR exam and do not break the accountability chain, the state of Texas can intervene and install a board of managers, which is replacing the board, and the superintendent. And then, so for us, there are different available options, but I will tell you that when you work with the agency, they will tell you, you have 6, but you really should only be looking at 3. And so when we have these conversations, we're always testing, what would this look like, or how could this possibly work in Austin ISD? We get that feedback, and then we take the next step in producing these plans. And so whenever it comes to reassignment, because one of the approved strategies to reassign the students to a school that's academically acceptable. So in its simplest form, if there was a school that historically had been not met accountability and there was an A-rated school, the state's perspective would say just move all the kids to the A-rated school. Break the accountability chain. That's what they would say is the best option. In cases where you have lots of schools that all have different programs and different different challenges, we can't always, it's not that simple. So for us, we had to really think about where did we have a school that would meet the criteria of being academically acceptable so they could carry the turnaround plan. And what the state says is the majority of the students have to go to that school. We could not do it the other way. If the majority of the students went to Houston, that would not be accepted. And so there are other options. You can do a restart, where this AISD restarts the entire school. We did that recently at Dobie, Burnett, and Webb. There are restarts with an 1882 partner, right? That's what Mendez looks like, and we know as a school district that we would strongly prefer to have our students be educated by our staff, our way, with our values. We also have other options, including resource schools, but those are typically for 2-year turnaround plan options. So there's different options. There's 6 in total, but ultimately, when you have 3 UAs, as we have here at Widén, you have fewer options. Go ahead, question. Do you have a microphone?
Can you come?
Or I can maybe restate your question if I can.
We're recording, so it would really help if you could speak in the mic so that it is caught on the
These
video.
cables
Sorry
are-
about that. I think this might be as far as we go.
So my question is more about the unacceptable ratings. You mentioned that we had 3 unacceptable ratings that all came out at one time. Now, in a previous meeting with Ms. Pace, she did say AISD was aware that some schools had 3 unacceptable ratings, but y'all sat back, and I think the word was that you hoped that the one that was tied up in litigation would not be released. And so my question is, why was AISD not proactive? Why were they not here and say, hey, regardless of what happens with TEA, regardless if this 2023 accountability rating comes out, your obligation is to our students. And so if it comes out or not, if the litigation comes out or not, you all knew that our school had 3F, so where was the proactive staff? Where was extra staff? Where was extra tutors? Any of that? That's what I would like to know.
Yeah. Thank you. So, first off, we never hoped. We were not in the lawsuit. We felt strongly that if we were going to improve academics and improve outcomes in Austin ISD, we were going to do it our way. So what does our way look like? Well, it means that in 2022, 2023, you had massive vacancies all throughout Austin ISD. Think about that time. We're 2 years removed from the pandemic. Our fill rate, our staffing rate was in the low 80s. Now we're at 97%. So we said we need educators in the classroom, right, first and foremost. We need to build systems. We need to align our curriculum. We need to invest in instructional coaches, which we did. We need to invest in content interventions, which we have. We need to go and pass a tax rate election to get compensation increase for our teachers. Like all these things we were doing and have been doing. So I don't want anybody in this room or outside this room to think that for the last 2.5 years, we were not moving the system. Now, could you go quicker? You could, but you're probably going to adopt behaviors and strategies that do not align for who we are. So what we said is, let's build out thoughtful response and initiatives. Let's align with the scorecard that the board approved in this summer of 2024, and that was our strategy. Now, 23, 24, 25, we knew that schools had been making progress. Many of our schools have. Honestly, when the accountability came out, it did put pressure on our system. But what we don't want to do is to lean into something that we don't believe in. But I don't want anybody to believe that urgency wasn't there or that we weren't deploying resources where we could. We were coming out of a period of disruption and trying to improve the entire system. That was what we were doing, and that's how we tackled it. So we never hoped. I mean, that's not true. No. Yeah. Yeah, so what I would say is we weren't doing it everywhere. That's I want to be really clear. What we did in 23, 24 is we created a resource index so that we organized all of our schools and we looked at student demographics and we said, if you are in this band, then we are going to ensure that from a staffing perspective, a resource perspective, you are supported in a different way, and our principals understood that, our system understood that, and that is how we responded. So no, we did not apply the same thing to every school. We were very intentional. In fact, in many cases, we actually held minimums where we would have otherwise made more aggressive decisions, and we said, no, we're not going to do that. And there are lots of examples of that, but I don't want anybody to think that we were homogeneous in our approach to how we supported our students. That was not the case. In fact, we went out of our way to produce an index that allowed our operations folks, our finance folks, our talent strategy folks to make decisions based on need. And that's how we've been operating ever since.
I think we have a follow-up question here, Matthias.
So I've been on this campus for 10 years, and I'm sorry, sir, with all due respect, you really didn't answer the question because I have been here from the very beginning. I've been here since before Ms. Pace was the principal here. And me working here, being with the kids, being in it every day, did not feel the difference in the past 3 years. We have had 3 different executive directors in the past 3 years. And before Mr. Medina, I saw them maybe 2-3 times on the campus. Now, whether they met with Mr. Fass or they met with Ms. Chilton at the time or whoever, that was unbeknownst to us. And whatever strategies that were put in place, I mean, we have made progress. We are looking for an actual factual answer, not just the political answer. What was done here?
You want to speak to that?
Here at Widén Elementary School. Not in the area, not for Rodriguez, not for whatever, not us numbers on a piece of paper on a spreadsheet. Here at Widén, what was done here when our interventionists. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Fawn. So as Superintendent Segura was saying, some of the things that have been done specifically for Widén, as well as some other campuses that have been struggling, is providing an instructional coach, providing a content interventionist, providing... In addition to that, when we level, because classes are under-enrolled, these campuses are protected from losing teachers, even if the classes are not quite full enough to maintain. We're leveling. Smaller class sizes impact learning. And let me just say this, you guys. I just want to say this. Part of the reason for the consolidation plan is not just accountability. But when we are under budget, when we have a budget deficit and we cannot provide the supports that campuses need, and there's campuses that are similar to Widén that have 3 unacceptable ratings, that we don't have the funds to, because you may not need just one instructional coach or just one content interventionist. You may need multiple. You may need to have quite a few classrooms that are under 18. We cannot do that when we are operating 116 campuses and many of them have needs. And so that is part of the plan for consolidation, is because we know you need more and we want to be able to give that.
We have another question. Is it related to this or a different topic? Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm a parent volunteer. I'm here pretty much every day helping out the school. My daughter goes to the school. I understand the need for consolidation and the need to meet budgets and everything that your proposal is attempting to achieve. I disagree with a lot of the solutions that you've chosen. A lot of the solutions in the proposal indicate one reason, but they appear to be due to accountability, but they say it's something else. My point on the turnaround that we're discussing here is that Austin ISD and none of the other schools in Texas should be going through turnarounds right at the moment, because those scores were not provided per Texas law. Texas Educational Code 39.054A3 requires that those scores be provided by August 15th of each year, okay? Since those scores weren't provided, the commissioner should have provided a not rated score to all the schools so that anybody that's in the condition that we are, where we're trying to improve our school and get back into accountability, has additional time to do that, and the scores weren't available to react upon. And so I think that if we could present that the commissioner should have provided us with not rated on those scores, we can actually adjust the consolidation that we need to in a more effective way that, A, closes schools that should be closed. For example, like Becker is the current dual language school in the South. And I can understand wanting to close that school because there's 29% emergent dual language there, and we want to move it to a higher population emergent dual language school. Well, Rodriguez is a perfect example of a school that would be available for emergent language dual language, or emergent dual language school. And then split the difference between Houston and Widén, again, as if the turnaround was not on the table. That would put both schools in a better geographic position for all the students that are in this area so that they have a shorter commute to school. Rodriguez would be a better commute for anybody in the South for getting to the wall-to-wall dual language school compared to Sanchez, which would increase, it would basically shut off the dual language capability to anybody in the South because it's north side of the river. And so there's just some solutions that, and that's just in the South End. I see sections in other parts, and I'm writing a counter proposal that I hope to have to you guys this week so that you can review what other options would be available if the turnaround thing were taken off the table.
Yeah. So, thank you. I want to be honest with y'all. You have to, the turnaround plans, the commissioner, the Texas Education Agency has already proven and demonstrated to other school districts that the environment we're in is not going away. They upheld the lawsuits. Districts lost. That's the honest truth. They have immense power. They have the authority to do everything I said. There is nothing that we can do that's going to keep us from having to submit these plans. And if we do not submit them, I promise you the response will be aggressive and it will take more control and hurt our students and create more harm than we can probably even comprehend. I appreciate that because that's what school districts fought for, right? In 2023, that's precisely what the lawsuit was about, is that school districts were not given enough time to actually adjust to the new STAR test. It had hundreds of school districts sue in the courts, and the commissioner won, period. So I don't want our community to spend energy on something that is not on the table because it's not. I know that our commissioner and our agency is not going to allow us to not submit these turnaround plans. And I, as the leader of this organization, have to submit them. I have to, because if I don't, then what happens? If you do not submit a plan and it's not accepted, you have 45 days to submit a new plan. If that plan is not accepted, you have 15 days. If that plan is not accepted, the state can move forward and install a board of managers, which is replace all of your trustees. You lose local control. That's what's happening in Fort Worth right now, and then replace the superintendent, and then you're back into that period of disruption. So I want to see your proposal. I very much want to explore different ideas and solutions, but I don't want to have you all leave here thinking that's a viable option, because it's just not from my perspective, and I know there are many other school districts that have already fought that and have lost.
And Matthias, I just want to add something because I want to make sure everyone followed when we talked about the options that are available, because we've had conversations at Widén, right? Basically, we have been told by TEA that when you get to that 3 unacceptable, you have to either restart your school, or you have to close it and combine them with a higher performing school, the majority of students, right? Those are the only 2 options that TEA is going to accept. And so when we had, what's that? Or partner with a charter to do either of those things, right? And so we had 13 schools that had that 3 unacceptable, and those were the choices, right? We cannot restart every single school, right? There wouldn't be enough staff to meet the requirements to do that. In some instances, we had to reassign students to a school that is already meeting that accountability that TEA had. Otherwise, we would not be able to recruit enough staff that met it just to keep everyone. And we understand that, and I think we didn't do a great job of responding to that piece. The fact is that Rodriguez does not have quite enough room for all of Widén to fit, right? But to TEA, they want to see the majority of students. If there are follow-up questions, can I get folks to come up, because it's going to be hard to hear folks, and I'd like to try to have one conversation at a time. Okay.
I mean,
Did you have some?
Well, he has a question about Houston and being a 48 2 years ago. Yeah, so.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Houston, and then we'll get to your question. You're welcome to stay up here, ma'am.
So to the gentleman, there's a couple things I want to acknowledge. Is that one is we have so many schools that have moved and are on the brink of getting a D and pausing, right? There are many. There's 9 schools that have 59s, several that have 50As. Houston is not one of them, but they're also 2 UA. They have a D in the middle that breaks up their accountability chain, and so they are 1 year behind where Widén is. That's the honest truth. Now, the other thing that I would say is, what I'm telling you is based on feedback we have from the agency. Whenever students are moved into a new facility, or whenever it's a population that isn't the majority, then they do feel that is a viable option. Now, the alternative would take all students to Rodriguez, right? That's the only other option. And in that case, could it be done? It would potentially create an over-enrollment issue at Rodriguez, which can lead to unsafe conditions. So that's really what we're balancing. I agree with you. Not every plan is perfect. So one of the things that we're going to do.
Folks, again, I'm going to ask that if we want to ask questions, if we can get to the mic. We're recording, and it's not going to pick up the voices that call. Folks, can I have people, if you would like to ask a question, please come. Ma'am, could you ask your question up here? We're happy to give you the mic if folks want to get in line.
Yeah, I wanted to know what's going on with the special education. My son have autism with HDID.
Yeah. So special education. So our students that are receiving special education services, as I think most communities know, we have been working very, very hard over the last 2.5 years to improve our systems. We are under a TA Read order of special education. We place staff and resources based on need. And so in this plan, the way that it would work is based on where your student is going to be located. We would say, okay, what services are going to be at either Rodriguez or Houston? That is not a talent and strategy, like that's not generally staffing. That comes from our special education department. And what they do is say, okay, based on these students' needs, we are going to place these staff here. And if that resource doesn't exist at that school, we will place them. That happens all the time. So I will tell you.
Let me tell you something about the special education. My son started school when the COVID started. He was going to Houston. Houston have a special education, but don't have a teacher at that time. I come here and I found the teacher in Widén. And this is his house to my son with 8 years. He's working hard. All the people here, the teachers, the principal, know my son. My son knows the school is just like he can go here because he knows where is all these places. And you are saying, oh, it's because the school, this. I understand. Houston, I have a lot of comments from bullying. Rodriguez, there are complaints about kids. They're suffering, there are accidents over there, bullying. What can I expect with my son over there? And it's not only that. It's hard when you have a son with a disability. When he come here, the doctor told me he don't go have empathy. It's gonna be hard for him. My son read. I have empathy. He know that how do you say las tablas in English? Tablets. iPad. No, that's not. Las tablas. Multiplication at 5. He knows now at 5 because his teacher doing that job. Because I have empathy for my son. Because I take care of my son. Because my son is someone here in the school. And you're saying, oh, this. How many years you was trying to close Webb? My son got to Webb. My another son got to Travis. Travis? The high school? Come on, Travis, I have a lot of problems too. And he graduated the past year with honors. And right now he's working in a company here. But he was a student and the teacher. That is how it works. And here, all the people work with empathy, with dedication to the kids. No, I understand. And let me tell you something. I'm afraid because I see in the news and Instagram, TikTok, there are kids going to another schools that are suffering. Well, his teachers doing painful to the kids. I'm afraid for my son. I'm afraid for my son. You cannot say, oh, he can go to Houston, he can go to Rodriguez. It's not that easy. Trying to explain my son, the school is got closed only because, it don't have the standards. When he learning everything they know in here. Trying to explain to my son. You know what autism is? It's hard. And now, you're going to take the only place my son, he feels safety. It's not that easy.
So I wanted to ask if you could address why Widén is getting all these exceptions when it comes to the plan. So originally, before the plans were released, we were told that if our school closed, our students would only go to a school that had a C or above, and that TAP principals would be required to meet certain requirements to be employed at the TAP school. Well, we have since been told, obviously, they're not going to a C school. They're going to a D and another F school, a lower F than what we had. But also when we asked about staffing, we were told, well, we have to make another exception. So we made an exception about not sending them to a C school, and we're probably also going to make an exception for the principal at Rodriguez because we don't have enough principals that would probably meet those requirements for all of the TAP schools. So why are we still considering going through with a plan when we have already been told we cannot implement it as it's supposed to be implemented?
Yeah, so great question. What I would say is exceptions, we haven't asked for exceptions. What I will tell you is that the Texas Education Agency understands how many we have to work through, right? As you heard Ali say, we have 13. That's only 3 UAs. There's 12 more right behind them. And so we as a school district have 116 schools, which means that about a quarter of the schools have to go through these plans. And if you are working through those many plans and you don't kind of recognize how any one of these changes impacts the next school and the next school and the next school, you won't be successful. So there's not exceptions. What we're saying is, if you were doing one thing in isolation, it would fit in this box, which is what we talked about. Certain requirements, certain definitions regarding a highly effective teacher. Because we are doing it all at once, which has to be done, then we are saying we can make these adjustments, but we also have to invest at these schools. So what I will say is that Widén is not the only school that's going through a transition that has some of these differences and changes in it. There are others. Just to be very, very clear, it's not Widén by itself. There are many others. And when you think about geographically where the schools are, unless we're going to bus kids all across town, which I'm not going to do, right? We're not going to do that. This is their community. They deserve to be in this area. We have to find alternative solutions. So what I'm saying is, let's pitch a strategy that responds to the largest elements in the plan and then make adjustments and have it get accepted. That is the approach we're taking. I am confident that it will be accepted. But to your point, these aren't exceptions like I'm asking them for an exception. What I'm saying is this is our district-wide plan. We don't have an infinite number of principals. We don't have an infinite number of teachers. If we are going to try to make it work, it has to work this way. If there are concerns in this specific adjustment, in this plan, I want to hear them so we can refine and improve. But that's why it's like that. Yeah. So one of the things I would say is if we were to follow if we were to be as rigid as the plan the state requires, right? One option would be an A2 partnership, right? Like we have that across the street at Mendez. That is one option. What I've heard from this community time and time again is that if they're going to be in our schools, they're going to be AISD staff. That's what I hear. So we were responsive to it. The other thing that I've heard is that we want familiar faces in these schools. It was Ali who just mentioned, if this plan gets approved and these students go to Rodriguez and the others go to Houston, our staff will have the option and ability to go if they choose to go. I want to make sure that our students feel welcomed, that they have familiar faces. That's how this works. If I have to restart a campus and it's all new staff, to me that is further away from what this community would want, because you would want your staff there. I don't have the option of restarting here. I don't have these other options available to me in the way that we would have if it was years past, or if it was a different situation. So I'm trying to find a balance. It's not perfect. It's the way that it's designed, the state tightens up as you move through the process. And I am trying to find a solution that balances our values, supports our students, and limits disruptions, but I do know that it's disruptive.
I'm going to go next. We had a question from Rochelle O. in the comment card. Has the district considered the impact of the proposed closure of Widén that it would have on the surrounding services of the community, such as the library, recreation center, etc.? I do want to start out with this question because we had a similar question this morning. We were at Pickle Elementary, and they have a rec center actually on site, a library. And one of the things that we talked about this morning was that if it is more convenient for families to pick up their kids at the rec center because it's actually closer, we talked about kids could theoretically go to the school they're zoned to, and then their bus could take them back to, and similarly, I think that we could potentially do a solution like that, rather than the after-school program being that your child would participate at Rodriguez or Houston. They could actually just get on the regular bus back to this neighborhood if they wanted to participate at the rec center, and then families could get them from the rec center. So that was just one solution that we were talking about that we could potentially apply to here. But I don't know if you wanted to talk a little more about this one.
So our schools are foundational to our community. They just are, right? These are neighborhood schools. That's why this is so painful. Like, I want to acknowledge that these schools, Widén in this community, many of our other schools in their communities, are anchors. Right? That's where community comes in and gathers. That's where, if there's an event, like a winter weather event, that's where families come. Like, we know that. I know that. We have set up winter weather events. We've done vaccination sites. These are community assets. So have we considered it? Yes, that's what makes this so hard. Many other schools are going through this as well. So if this were to be approved, we would work with our community to determine what happens next. Right? I will tell you that our board and myself are very much aligned in wanting these schools to remain community benefits. Now, it will depend on what that benefit is for this community, because it will be different for some communities. Some communities would prefer that it be, community space or partner space. There's been opportunities for early childhood centers. We've done that in schools that were closed. We've had housing projects. We can do lots of different things, but we're going to do them with community. We're not going to just go through a process and just propose something. So, so. So,
why does no way? And then robust staffing. You're going to have robust staffing. You talk about we have vacancies everywhere.
No, we've actually improved vacancies significantly. But so that's your point is the main point.
Paying teachers $15,000 more. You're going to get rid of these teachers? You need to concentrate on this area. Consider us an exception. Just like I'm an old West Austin mother. My children all graduated from deceased. From Austin High, O. Henry, Aiken, Bowie, Garza, Matthews. I never went to a meeting like this. I never had to experience anything like this in West Austin.
Yeah.
And it is really real. We're considered numbers.
You're not considered numbers. That is.
They're talking about college and global programs. You have Breckenridge, which is an IB program.
Here's something. Here's the thing. Continue. I'm sorry.
You keep talking about the big picture.
She can come up.
This is a shame that you would market this like this. That you always
She can. You want to give her the mic?
consolidation program.
She can have the mic.
I don't need one.
I agree with you that there are huge inequities in Austin ISD. 100%. I just talked about why if we do not do something, this is going to continue for the next 50 years. We're 144 years old. Briker Woods, Cassis, Austin High, Bowie, all the schools that you named. Think about the feeder patterns. Think about the alignment in curriculum. Think about the supports they have. We are desperately trying to find resources to deploy in East Austin. The 2022 bond program was an example of that. That the investments we made as part of the tax rate election with instructional coaches or the investments we've made in our educators. Like, we have been moving the system precisely to do what you are saying. The challenge that we have is that the state has applied real deadlines and milestones. And I wish we could have been back 5 years ago or 7 years making different decisions. We did, for whatever reason, that didn't happen. And so now we have to balance.
Bring the staff from West Austin down here. Put the staff from here over in West Austin.
I don't think, I think that.
Why do all the schools in West Austin have A, B, C ratings? Why? Why did we, and I have this question for you all, and it's in here. I want an audit of this school over the last 10 years as far as test scores. There's no reason why we should see across the board test scores where they go F, 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 B, B, F, F, F. That's a problem with you all and the principals and the administration. There should no excuse until you can fix the inadequacies in the environment we have already, that we have now. You can't fix that. Why are you trying to fix us before you fix you all?
So.
And another thing, I don't see this administration setting up schools for success in the east side. Those schools in West Austin are set up for success. Boy, unbelievably. We are not. You do not come in. You make it more difficult for anything to happen, for us to do our job. And we need to be treated equally down here, over here. It doesn't need to be like growing up where it was the east side and the west side. People don't need to be embarrassed from where they come from.
I agree.
Miss Cat says she means business, man.
No, but I really do.
So I just described how
It makes no sense to these parents or even us as teachers.
one of the things that I said when I started was that in 2022, Widén had a B. In 2023, please let me finish, please.
When we got sixth grade in our campus.
Okay, exactly. So the account.
Because of the principal.
We are agreeing. I am telling you right now that the 2022 accountability to 2023 changed. They changed the system in Texas. You had the same teachers, the same students, and they went from a B to an F. We had 12 schools that were Bs that now became Fs. They went A's to C. So that's exactly right. So that's the thing. So the accountability system changed on us. And when the accountability system changed, it hurt our historically underserved students to a greater degree than the non-historically underserved student groups. That's the state, though. I agree with you. So there's a comment. There's a comment that was made here around sixth grade, because I want to talk about that. You mentioned sixth grade. You said sixth grade made it. Well, you didn't say it, but I think I heard you say it.
I did say it. No,
that sixth grade being moved into these elementary schools from Mendez, right, made it more challenging and ultimately made it more difficult for each school to meet accountability for a variety of reasons, whether it's certifications or the complexity of having sixth grade coming in. What happened? In 2023, The administration made that decision in April of that year. Y'all remember that? That was harmful. In April, the administration made a decision, and then over the course of the summer, everybody tried to move to try to get our schools, including Widén, prepared to receive those students. Rodriguez, Widén, the list goes on and on and on. It didn't work. That should have never happened. And that is one thing that I'm telling our communities. We cannot make decisions in the spring semester, which is why we're having these conversations now, because I can't take away the one thing that our families absolutely need and what our principals absolutely need, and that's time to plan. So there's other things that happened in this community, but I just want you to know that I agree with you, that created harm, and I'm not going to make those types of changes in the spring semester. It's not going to happen.
My question is related more to special education. I'm a teacher and a parent, and AISD has been under fire for special education violations left and right. Our legal fees through the roof. That's public record. The amount that we have to pay to defend time and time and time and time again. And somehow moving these babies here. I have 50% sped in my classroom right now. 50% special education students in my classroom right now. Do you know how much support I get? Like none compared to that. I have my amazing team here that help me out. I would be nowhere without our one special education teacher, my one TA who comes in and helps us out. That's it. That's all I have for a 50% class of special education. You're going to move them and expect there to be smooth, no violations, none of that. So those legal fees that we already are paying out the wazoo, what is the plan to make sure that we stay in compliance when we are already out of compliance with special education as it is in this district? Already out of compliance.
So how are we going to fix it? I'll push back on the out of compliance piece, but
no. I'm a parent. We are out of compliance on special education.
So I agree with you for the last 2.5 years. No, so 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, before we took on the TA read order, we had thousands of evaluations backlog.
Thousands, yeah, okay. So we're at hundreds now, right?
We're way.
You're not going to win this with me. You're not going to win.
But to say that we have not been moving the system to improve, I think, and
moving,
getting to
yes.
Okay, so, and then you talk about legal fees, that has gone way down. Like there's
He's
a
not
lot.
Answering me, though. What's your question? My question is, what is the plan for these special education students? Because if it is, we're going to give them a transfer ARD, and we're going to send some of their staff, who, by the way, most of us don't even meet the TAP plan requirements, but you're going to send our friendly faces over there, and that's going to fix it. I guarantee you, next year at this school, Rodriguez, you are going to see massive behaviors and all kinds of other issues that are going to come up that are going to put us right back in legal situations if we do not address it. And so far, the only answer I have been given has been, we're going to make sure they get their services at their campus. That's not how that works. Don't say we'll just send them services there, because you don't. That doesn't ever happen.
And I appreciate your question and your comment and your concerns. I hear you, we hear you. My name is Krista Etheridge. I'm the Interim Executive Director of Special Education. We have started proactively planning very early. My team meets weekly. Right now we're actually meeting almost daily to really plan and look at the data, look at the students individually. It's, like you said, we understand it's not just we're going to move it and it's going to work. It's going to take a lot of planning. And yes.
So so one of the things that we talk about often. So. So
with children with special needs, things like that, transitions do not happen very well. We know that. So we can't be like, oh,
Can I ask you, what do you think if this were to be successful, if this has to happen, how can we be successful? What do you need?
Massive intervention at the new schools. You are going to need more than one resource room. You are going to need plenty of peace areas. You are going to need trained staff, not trained on a computer screen that we do at the beginning of every year. You are going to need hands-on trained staff by special education, individual, like the TAs who know their job as a TA, the teachers who know their job, right? All of those things. The staff who know those students, they're going to walk in those doors and they are going to panic, they're going to run, they're going to elope, they're going to do all those things. And the amount of time we get at the beginning of a school year in August as teachers to plan, we already don't get enough time to plan for the SPED students we have now. And that's students who are returning. And now we're going to have a whole bunch of new ones, like, that are going to have no idea what's going on. All their safety is gone. All those BIPs that we spend all that time on, those are out the door. There's some outlines there, yeah, but they're in a whole new environment. So you're going to need to have a lot more feet on the ground, and that's my question. What are those feet on the ground going to look like at these schools?
So what you're describing is precisely why we need to make decisions now. You just mentioned sixth grade coming in April of 2023. One of the reasons that we need to have a conversation is so that we can build the plans together. Like with the frameworks, yes. The structure, the expectations that I have, but I cannot build a plan unless your voice is in it, unless our family's voice is in it. And if I start building that plan in April and May, we will not be successful at the start of the school year, which is why you need to start in December, in January, so that we can hire, we can position, we can pay the stipends, we can get people to be in place. I'm being honest with you. If I created a plan, it would not meet your expectations. It wouldn't meet our family's expectations because I don't have that information yet. We don't have a vote. This has not happened yet. So
Make their own plan. Why don't we do? Y'all need to stop and slow down. Administration does. Every neighborhood from around the entire district is saying stop, slow down. You all push this on us way too fast. Why don't you all stop and slow down? Why weren't we having these meetings 3 years ago? Why weren't you getting our input to say what's going to happen, what's going to help your community, what will make this work? Let us, instead of wasting our time all the time, let us have in-school meetings.
and I want to apologize for, there are lots of things that none of us were, we were not here 3 years ago. Like there's the board, there are lots. I know, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's the district's fault. It is our fault. I am desperately trying to find a way to move us forward with the pressures that are real. Like slowing down, delaying, the state won't let us do that. This is a 3 UA.
Building that you all bought that you all should have never bought.
So,
You all decided to sell the property. How much money did Austin, did AISD own that property on 6th Street? Did y'all own it?
yes, it was owned.
Okay, how much did AISD make on the sale of that property? And why did y'all go buy a building that expensive?
So
Because that is real estate, that's your area of expertise, but it is not to sell off land. They're not selling Uni. Why would you sell off that expensive piece of property and not invest it back in us?
So it doesn't, we have, so I am doing everything possible to find funds. We can certainly talk about funds, period. Not,
Ma'am, can we try to have one person talk at a time? I want to let him try to respond, please. Thank you so much.
yeah, so in 2016, because that's what we're going back to talk about that was mostly before I got here. But the idea was to consolidate 4 different sites. So it wasn't just central office at 6th Street. There was also the Baker Building, which some of y'all remember. There was also the planning space out at ALC at the time. So AISC was operating 4 buildings, all very, very costly. And so the plan at the time, again, this is previous administration, this is before I got here, the idea was to consolidate all of them, become more efficient administratively. So that was the decision. the real estate funds were used to buy it because no one wanted to take funds from the general operating budget because that's the budget that goes and pays for compensation and for programs. So it was a self-funded real estate offset. And since then, we've been trying to find more ways to monetize it. We've leased out floors. We're doing everything possible. But here's the thing. If we sold it, it would evaporate in a moment because our budget is $1 billion. $1 billion. Right? We give $780 million to the state every year. Like if we sold that building, you might get relief for 2 months, 3 months, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be having to figure out how to move hundreds and hundreds of staff into our schools, improve those spaces, probably going to lose staff in the place. And we talk about principals needing support. All that comes from the system. Like we're all together. So we can deliberate about it, but I want you to know that we are finding every opportunity to generate revenue, to offset our costs. I have downsized central office. I'm doing everything. I told our community, and I will share this with you all, like I never wanted to be here. We made lots of hard decisions before we got here. We made commitments before we got here. We're just at a point where we have to take a step forward if we're ever going to get to be a different school district that actually can allocate resources to where they're needed most. And they're needed in communities like this.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. We actually have another community meeting in East Austin up at Greater Calvary Bible School at 6 p.m. and it's about a 30-minute drive. So it looks like we have, I know you haven't spoken, there's 4, I think we'll have time for these last 4 questions, and then we're going to have to get on the road.
Hi, I'm not an educator, so I'm kind of drinking out of a fire hose right now, but I'm kind of going back to Houston and Rodriguez and the TAP, kind of the intersection of the TAP and the consolidation. So my kids would be going to Houston if this plan goes forward. But I know that from reading and from getting information from other educators that the TAP is also tied to resources. So what I'm understanding from AISD is that my kids are not worth those resources.
So to clarify, both Rodriguez and Houston will get the extra resources for turnaround.
Yeah, but we're not getting them. So that's the problem. We don't have funds.
I don't think your mic, there you go.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that that your point is exactly the point that we are trying to make is wherever we can. Right now, we are an inch deep and a mile wide. You got 116 schools all across the district. We have needs. We have instructional coaches. There's so many things that we need to offer our students, and we simply do not have the budget. We're running a budget deficit right now.
But you and your staff had a really big increase in salary recently. So how do you justify that?
So when was that? Because I mean, so since I've been here, the only salary increase occurred in 2023, right? 23 it was a board vote. It applied for the 23-24 school year. It's the same time that we did 7% increase for teachers. We increased stipends.
And 34% for yourself, correct? Or something in the 30s?
I haven't gotten a pay increase since I started the job. So I mean, I just want you to know, like, okay. I have none of our staff have gotten.
I mean, I could do an open record request and get it. It's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I will.
But along those lines, since resources are short, how many staff at AISD headquarters could we expect to also lose their jobs, since we don't necessarily need that big of an AISD staff anymore, since there's going to be less schools?
Yeah. So this past summer, before we even started this process, we reduced our central, So, okay, so after. Okay, so we took, this is the 3rd consecutive year that we reduced central office staff. We're probably down 200 positions at the moment. Whenever we think about what positions have been increased, they're all around special education. That's really where we've seen the largest number, and instructional coaches, because they're coded to central office. So if you go and look at just the total number of staff, you're going to see they're coded to central office, but they're deployed to our campuses. So there are lots of things like that. Our board knows, I think they know, our community knows, I will always try to reduce our imprint in the system. I've done that year over year. Every single time we've had a budget, I reduced our staff. There are people who have had maybe not demotions, but the people who have changed positions.
Actual demotions, yes.
Yeah, I've taken
Also.
actual demotions. I have held vacancies. I have vacancies all throughout the district. I will not post them. So you look at the org chart, there's vacancy, 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 vacancy all over, and I'm holding them even though it's really impacting our ability to support our schools because I know how disruptive and how challenging it can be to see that occur before we do this. So yes, I will always look for opportunities to reduce our costs. I've done it every single year that I've been here, and I will continue to do
Ma'am,
it.
I'm going to go to the gentleman next to you because you've had the chance to speak. So go ahead, sir. Or are you in line? Or, did you have a follow-up?
Well, one follow-up with her, I think we were thinking more executive directors, because if executive directors are tied to campuses and we have 13 less campuses, we don't need that many executive directors, right? But it's a comment and question in one, and what was bothering me is I feel like when we're addressing our accountability in these scores, we keep mentioning the east side, the east side, the east side in this community, right? And that the test got harder. The test made it harder, or they changed the test, or accountability, whatever we keep saying that they changed, okay? A few years ago, worked at the Harmony Innovation right here. Many of you are probably very familiar with. When I first started at Harmony, it was an F school, ironically, because we got scores from J. Houston when J. Houston students moved over there. So I went through this same process with Harmony. They did not throw their students under the bus. They did not use their teachers and their staff as scapegoats. They put their boots on the ground. They gave more resources. And that school, over the last 3 years, that took the same test, has students from the same community, got a B, and this most recent year got an A. So can we please stop blaming the state and talking about East and West, because obviously they have figured it out. They have figured out how to be successful in this community without displacing all of their teachers and all of their students.
So,
Matthias, we only have 5 minutes before you need to get on the road, so I want to get to the other questions.
Hello. I am a
So I communicated what's changed, right? I am simply saying that we are in an environment and the state has authority and control and power. So we have to be responsive. I don't know what Harmony's doing, but I can tell you that there are lots of people who have said, hey, Mendez across the street, they have a B. They have an A or a B and a B. And so that's the thing. You can get the results, but it may not be the way that you want to get them. So I'm not going to speak to that. I will never speak about another school district. That's not what I'm doing. That's not who I am. But I want you to know that I strongly believe that whatever we do, it should be done in alignment with our values, Austin ISD values, because you can get quick results. It's happening in Houston right now. They have great results. That's not who we are. So I just don't want to go down that path, but I will tell you that I am committed to making sure that our students in Austin ISD grow academically, but they also feel comfortable in their own skin. They also feel comfortable talking to someone who look like them, and they're great humans. Like I appreciate and understand that your position, but I wanted to share with you just that response because you asked for the response.
Hello. Father of a daughter that goes to this school. Love it. And just want to say it's great hearing the voice of the teachers hopefully be elevated tonight, and actually want to speak to how I know a lot of their faces is exactly the follow-up question I want to have to hear is recognizing them from the park or from the rec center or from the event, at the library. And I do not think you can find another school, we've looked at this, more connected than Widén. And so I almost want to rephrase the question is, have you considered that Widén is the solution to this wicked, challenging problem that you have? Because I hear about like staff retention. What about, the ability to just take a quick jog, or go check in on your kid at the daycare, or tie into a program here at the library? I think this would be an awesome place to work. And if you need to retain the teachers, you got these communities. I love this city. I believe in this city. I believe in the district. They're going to be building towards these rec centers. They're going to be building towards the park. We're going to have mobility like we haven't had in the future. There's a lot of resources and synergy we can tie into here. And it does feel like, I know I don't understand the grading issues and how all that relates, but if the question is, how do you plan for long-term best school location? This is it. There's not another location. And I can walk you through maps. I'm hoping some of these made rounds last time where it shows Widén is the most connected school. You talked with Pickle this morning, it's just behind, but there is not another school that scores as strong as Widén for community connections. You got a community schools program. It's here in Austin, only one on the south side. Outdoor learning programs. Where is a better spot to have in here? Let's work with a golf course. Let's work with a state park. Let's make this better than anything else in the state of Texas. There is a lot going on here that you cannot find, and it's going to be irrecoverable if we walk away. And the question is Widén the solution? Are we walking away? Is AISD walking away from this? Because there's a lot of benefit, and I'll say even if it's not an elementary school, it feels like it could benefit AISD in so many ways. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a substitute teacher. I'm the oldest person in the building and possibly in the district, and I've been around. And I'm a New York City native. I'm sorry to have to say this, but I haven't seen this much snow thrown around since I lived in New York. I'm here every single day, and I look at the faces of my coworkers, the administration, the kids, and especially the parents. Let's be honest, okay? You had the meeting last week, you have this meeting tonight, you're going to make a final decision on November 20th. Be kind to these people. Let's tell them right here and right now, is there any way in God's good earth that you're going to keep this school open? If you're not, be honest and tell them it's over. Stop with the bull.
So as I have never intended to, to say anything that I didn't believe was the honest truth. So we're refining the plan, we're updating the plan. I can't say for certain, sir, kind of where we'll end up. I don't make the vote. That's the board's decision. I have to address multiple things. You're providing feedback. I appreciate the feedback. There's a comment this gentleman said earlier that kind of is spurring, different ideas. But I want to be honest, something has to change here. I have to respond to the 3 UAs. I just want to be really, really clear. That's not the board, that's not Matias, that is the state of Texas requiring a response, and they expect the intervention to meet the risk that they see, which is 3 Fs. Even if there's progress, they still see it. And so, all right.
She said that you're going to, oh, go ahead.
I know.
You're going to be putting our kids in a place where there's bullying. So please solve it. Don't just close it. We're all a big family here. We're all a community.
Thank you.
I have 2 daughters that studied here, and now they're at the university. I have one in Boston, one here. That's something that's not always possible, but with the teachers that we have had here, that's something that you can do.
Thank you. And this is going to be the last question we have time for. Thank you.
Hi, how are y'all? I have a different energy tonight. My name's Dee Rivera. I've been a classroom teacher for about 36 years, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Yes. And thank you. This is really a very magical place, Mr. Segura. And Mrs. Pace, how are you? I want to say that because this is a magical place. This community, these loving teachers, this awesome principal that we have, Mr. Fosbanda. He is top notch. I just want to say that when I entered this building, Mr. Segura, I was a very young teacher, okay? So 2/3 of my time was here at Widén, so this is my home away from home. And I am coming to the end of my journey, but it's sad and it feels very sad to me because I've been working for AISD since Dr. Ellis. I don't know if any of y'all remember, but it's been a long time coming, Dr. Forgione. I've seen a lot of administrators, a lot of superintendents, a lot of teachers, a lot of parents, a lot of students. And yes, I've come from being the young teacher to being the one who became a mom, who became a grandma, and now a great-grandchildren. And it just feels so sad I cannot even believe that we are here talking about Widén closing. And I just want to say, if there's, and I speak from my heart, if there is any way possible that this beautiful campus, Widén Elementary, it is so special, it's so different than all the other schools that are going to close. I've seen these schools, they've been our sister schools for a long time, and nothing has topped Widén. And I know, Ms. Pace, I know that you know this. You know me as a teacher. You know that I worked really hard, and all these teachers that are here with me, Ms. Fawn, Mr. B, Ms. Emil, so many teachers that have been here since the beginning of time. We are special. We are very different. Yes, you can give me the F and everything that our children have accomplished, but let me tell you, this type of school, it's a very hard school, and it takes a very special teacher, it takes a very special principal and vice principal, it takes a very special community to come. I can't believe that this would come to a close. Please, I beg you all, with all of our hearts, all of my heart, as I tell you, I came in as a very young teacher, and I will be leaving as a very old teacher. But my heart, it's here at Widén. What can I say? What can I do? How can I plead? Keep Widén open. I love these children. Miss Pace, you know us. You know what we're about. You were part of us. And then Mr. Fasbanda came in, and he continued and kept it just top-notch. These teachers, I feel for them because when I came into this profession in AISD, oh my gosh, I couldn't wait to get into AISD. I went to Taylor, I went to California. Nothing topped AISD. I feel so special and blessed that I've worked here. Please, I beg you, don't let AISD close up Widén. This is a magical place. Miss Pace, you know that. You know us. You know what we're about. And Mr. Fasbanda, I don't know about most of you, but we work day in and day out with this gentleman, and he is awesome. He loves these children. He cares about his teacher. He cares about his community, and this particular school especially. It would be so sad to see it all go away. Please, Mr. Segura, I don't know how to beg you. I don't know what to do, but I beg you from the bottom of my heart. I believe in AISD. My children graduated from Austin High, and Longhorn country here. I want this for Widén. For it to close would be just such a grave, massive mistake. I don't know how to tell you, but if I wasn't here for 2/3 of my life, I would say, yeah, it's just another school, but it's not. Most of these parents, I probably had you all as children, I don't know. But I already know that I've seen so many kids go in and go out. They come, they visit me. This is really a special place. And all of these campuses here, I mean, all of these flags here, they stand for something, especially for that middle one. And it starts at Widén. I just want to say that I love Mr. Fasbanda for having been the best principal ever to have done what they did. Ms. Pace, help us out. You know us. You know our heart. God bless you, Mr. Segura. I hope that you reconsider Widén in some way, because this building cannot perish. It has to be alive with the children. All these parents, God, if I could tell you what kind of parents they are, oh my gosh, they've been backwards for this school. All of these parents, I look at them, they could be my children. No, I'm serious. Look, I wear the ranks. But I love Widén Elementary, and I've known it forever. God, if I can only just throw that magic to you all that you don't understand from this school, except for maybe Miss Pace. She knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, Mr. Fasbanda, for whatever it's worth, thank you for everything. And may God bless Widén Elementary. I hope we're still considering that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we head out, I just wanted to reiterate the timeline so everyone is on the same page. So this coming Friday, we will be releasing revisions to the plan. There's actually a special board meeting tomorrow night where they're going to talk about some of those revisions that you might see on Friday. But you will get an email, you'll get a text letting you know that the plan is available and links to our website where to find everything. And then the board will be actually discussing the actual revisions next Thursday at their board info session, and then the November voting session, November 20th, that's when we anticipate they're going to vote on the final plan. And so if you'll go one more slide, you still have these at your tables. The QR code, again, that QR code closes this evening, so get your comments in. It's actually probably going to close first thing in the morning if you're a night owl, so there's still time to get comments in the comment card. We thank you all for your time, and you'll be hearing from us on Friday, okay? Thank you so much.